Sammy Taylor, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Stuart Andrew and Isaac Alcorn, who are going to help us go through the BUCS fixtures that have happened over the weekend and looking forward to what's coming up this week. The season's coming in thick and fast, and already we're in week 3. But before we get into the on-the-pitch stuff, we wanted to address some of the off-the-pitch news that we've got this week. And Isaac, we had some quite not so happy news come out of the Bradford Bears camp after, obviously, the withdrawal from the league, but we're talking about off the field here, aren't we? So why don't you tell everybody what happened and what's happened since?
Yeah, so one of our ex-players, Mags, has been recently diagnosed with brain cancer and is going to receive treatment in January in London. We got made aware last week by an old exec who said, "Can we share this out?" And we did. And a lot of the Britball community got around us. Inside Britball, for one, shared it. We had support from York, donated a lot of money. Plymouth, Mersey, a lot of people who we didn't really expect to help us, and now we've raised over £11,000 to help her with her treatment after the operation. So no, it's really good to see the Britball community come together and help someone who desperately needs it.
It's true. It's one thing that we always hold our community up with high regard, is that when one of our communities in trouble, it really rallies behind it, doesn't it? And this is a prime example of that happening, of such diabolical news, obviously, for Mags, and hopefully she does well on the back of all this treatment that is available now. Actually, to know that financial security is coming at the end of it, well on the community, right?
Yeah, exactly that. We're renowned for sort of pulling together and supporting whatever colour people wear. So, we've had the injury to Dante during the adult season last year, and they put an update online about him. And then we had 95% sure his name was Josh Jenkins. Apologies if I've got that wrong. The guy that played for Northampton Knights and suffered cardiac arrest on his pitch. And then there was the Leicester Panthers player, the adult season this year. His name is going to completely fail me. Mm-hmm. They were playing against the Caesars, weren't they? Apologies that your name fails me, but every time these GoFundMe pages get set up, the community rallies around, and it appears that they've come to the fore and done it again. So thank you very much to everybody who's donated. Mags, wish you all the best. Hope everything goes well. And yeah, it's something that we do really well.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll make sure that we put the link to the GoFundMe page in the details of this podcast and on YouTube as well, so you can go to that and get directly donating if you want to add your part. Even the smallest donation will go towards Mags's recovery. And best of luck to Mags, obviously, from myself and everybody inside Britball, because I know there's a number of us who aren't joining the podcast today who would absolutely love to send their well wishes as well. And hopefully as well, Isaac, thinking a little bit outside the box, everybody within the Bradford Bulls and Bradford Bears and wrong team, wrong sport, are okay, because obviously this can affect people within the community as well, and hopefully they're keeping well, and we send their well wishes too. Okay, so let's move on to looking back at the weekend's results then. There's no easy way to transition from that, really. So let's have a little look, see what we got up to at the weekend, because there was not some surprises, but definitely some surprises, and I'm sure we'll be able to get into them. And that's why we've got Isaac and Stuart with us to break that down for us. So if we take a look at the Premier, and I'm going to load this up, and it's going to work perfectly. There you go. Look at that. If you aren't listening to on our YouTube page, then you're missing out on Stuart's amazing graphics. So looking back at the Premier tier, obviously we've got the three divisions within this tier, and obviously National sitting at the top there. So Stuart, I'll give you first dibs at this one. What surprised you at sort of like this tier in particular, as to what happened over the weekend with obviously Saturday and Sunday fixtures?
You're getting used to the lingo, aren't you? Tiers and divisions. You're doing well.
I'm not.
You didn't butcher it at all. You're doing fine. Yeah, absolutely no surprises, right? It was a really quiet weekend of football. Not. Saturday afternoon, down at Hillside Gardens, first game of the season, live streamed by BUCS TV, and wow, what a game. If you're new to BUCS football, unfortunately, all games aren't like that, as we'll come on to in Tier 1 and Tier 2. But the Bullets and Nottingham Gold put on a heck of a battle, and it was kind of reminiscent to their final at UON a few years ago, which finished, I think it was like 27-20. It was another humdinger of a game like this one. And with a minute or so to go for Gold to get that ball down the field and get it into the corner of the end zone, just to see their celebrations and the rewards on their face, it was, a fantastic game of football. On the flip side, Bullets kind of hurt themselves. There was a couple of 15-yarders. I distinctly remember that taunting penalty for the defensive lineman who were, clearly seen on camera taunting the Notts sideline. Very reminiscent to the DB in the NFL game this weekend who was taunting the fans and then got burnt. Karma kind of come back to get you, doesn't it? So, we saw the Bullets toppled, their first loss for years, and the first loss on home soil for even longer. They fell 21-20 to the Gold. And then the rest of that were, not so close games. And we look into the Prem North, 2 games that I actually picked Raptors Trent as my sort of game of the week. And Trent took on Liverpool. We were wondering sort of how that north-south meeting would go. Well, north-south, the northern teams getting promoted to the Prem North, if that makes sense. Then, Trent kind of took care of business. They're back on home soil this weekend. And then SGS Portsmouth in the south, a lot closer than some might have thought. I don't know what Isaac has to say on SGS Pride Destroyers, but for me, a lot closer than some might have thought.
Yeah, no, I thought the Pride would have been hurt from not being included in the national, really. So I thought they would have had a bit more, bit grit between the teeth and put more points on. But it shows the strength of the Prem South, really. That now that is not in there anymore, it's going to be a lot more competitive between the two sides. Yeah, SGS still scored 21 points, but back last season, would that have happened? Maybe it would have even been more. So it's good for the league as a whole, really.
And Isaac, what about this tier in particular for yourself? Because you had a couple of games of the week in here, and obviously you'd have had eyes on that Bullets Goal game as well. That we were fortunate to have it live streamed, as Stuart mentioned.
Yeah, so watching the Ewing Notts game, it was an interesting one. I thought once that Ewing's QB went down injured, they didn't really have a game plan for after that. You saw that as soon as he had to come off, it was Notts just went up that extra gear, and you could tell that Notts were gonna bring someone back to Ewing. And I think what were 2 seasons ago now, where they beat Notts on their own turf to win the national championship. I think that gave them a lot of extra motivation to win this one. And, it were a tight one. It wasn't one that people would probably have expected Notts to go and win, but this league is going to be full of surprises this year. The one I'm surprised about is Loughborough beating Leeds Beckett. I think Loughborough having the close connections now with the NFL Academy is only going to help them as a programme. Beating Leeds Beckett, who have been up there for multiple years now, it is a big shock that Loughborough, who didn't really get the results last season, is now putting 30 points on a really good Beckett's team. Yeah,
we saw last week, didn't we, that Newcastle had that 8-0 victory over Raptors, and we wondered whether that was for first week jitters or whether it was signs of lack of offensive prowess on both sides, and that was probably played out in the Prem North there then, wasn't it, where Leeds kept going with their high scoring offense, because they took on who was it last week? Was it Cardiff? No, not Cardiff.
Warwick.
They took on Warwick, the week before, and that was they put up about 40 points there as well, didn't they? So I suppose we can kind of see how the Prem North might be shaping out there, even if it's only across 2 weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, putting combined 84 points now over 2 games. It's not easy to do, especially against a team in Newcastle that were in the Prem last season, didn't concede a point the week before. So no, he's looking good for the uni of Leeds. And then you look at Nottingham Trent, who are just continuing the work that they did last season in the North. So yeah, I think it's that one is starting to shape up a little bit more than any other division, I think.
And it rolls on, doesn't it? So we end up going from from week 2 into week 3 for the Premier tier, and we'll end up having plenty more to talk about as the results come in this week as well. But should we move on to tier 1 then and have a little look at that and see how we go through? Try and break down these results, because this is where the lists get longer, as you can tell on our graphics as well. And we've got plenty to go through, but don't want to go through every single fixtures and results on the podcast, because that doesn't make for good podcasting, really, does it? But Isaac, you get first dibs this time. And what kind of stood out to you from these tier 1 results, and how that might look going forward?
Yeah, so it's the northern division that I've really liked the look of. I said in our preview podcast that this is my favourite division so far. LJMU against MMU Eagles. The scoreline doesn't suggest that it was a great game. And talking to a couple of players, it was just two defenses going against each other. MMU scored on a pick 6 and then a 2-point conversion from that. So it gives a lot of hope to, I think, LJMU. Yeah, it gives a lot of hope to LJMU that their defense didn't concede any points. MMU obviously didn't concede any points. So I think that is going to be two strong defensive teams. And then you look at the UCLan Rams, who have put 50 points on Manchester, who look like Manchester could have been the favourites for that division. I think their ties with the Charlie Buccaneers and the under 19s and the 16 teams helps them. If you look at the roster for the UCLan Rams, I think a lot of the starters have all come through that academy, have all played together. A lot of the coaches are the same. So it's that thing of when we were talking about last week with GB, how it's a team, it's not individuals. I think UCLan have got that perfect, where you've got people who've been playing together for 5-6 years, and now they're going to Britball, they're getting bigger, they're getting better at the sport, and now it's showing against university teams.
We've got the Charlie Buccaneers you mentioned, and I know we weren't going to talk about this, but you just turned on a light bulb in my head where you've got the Charlie Buccaneers, which is obviously a good academy, has been for years. The UConn Rams are basically made up of Manchester Titans players, right, and coaches, and they're also involved in Team North, which, if you're under 19, you get to be involved in that as well as involved in BUCS. So there's a little bit of a nice little sort of hotbed of American football there, where you've got opportunities to train those players and multiple opportunities, which is probably part of the reason why the under 19s regional league was formed, so you can kind of continue to have that contact time with them, which I thought quite an interesting sort of thought to think about how that might go into Team Midlands and the Nottingham sort of aspect around it as well, and how that'll affect in the future. But enough rambling from me. Stuart, what about yourself? Having a little look at tier 1, and what stood out to you?
I'm going to go from one extreme to the other here. So we spoke about the Scottish 1A, didn't we? About how it's all of the Scottish teams merged into one division. Have we started to see that divide already, with the scoreline being as heavy in the Napier Knights Bulls game as it was? Mavericks Tigers was a little bit closer, but are we going to see this sort of divide in that Scots division, where we have 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom? Perhaps a little bit early to tell. Is it just the way that the fixtures have fallen this week? I don't know, but it's something to sort of keep an eye on. And then my game of the week was all the way down at the bottom, was UEA versus Kent, and how they've sort of been backwards and forwards over the last couple of years. And again, it was another really tight encounter. UEA managed to put up 8 points, Kent 14. So, it's a grass pitch down in Norwich. It's very open. It's very breezy. It's very cold. So, it all plays into the home team's favours. And we said that it was the same last year, but Kent managed to come away with a victory this year. So, fair play going there early doors on a Sunday morning, getting that result. So, yeah. And then the other one that sticks out is the Reading Brighton game. Hey, since when does football games finish 6-2? Somebody commented, I think it was Tum actually, wasn't it? Commented,
Yeah,
how was that scoreline made up? Did we end up with 4 safeties in one game?
Yeah.
Was it 2 field goals for Brighton? Was it? It's one of those
Missed
anomalies.
PAT. Yeah.
Put it on your scorecard bingo, as they say in the NFL, don't they?
Absolutely.
So let's start ticking it off. Let's create a BUCS bingo and see what we can end up with. But across that, I think most of the other fixtures went the way that we probably thought they would.
And an interesting note from Bournemouth, who told us that their 40-0 win over Southampton was their biggest win ever. So congratulations to them for putting up that scoreline there, because that's obviously program momentum builder, isn't it, when you're able to do something like that in your first week. So unfortunately, we don't know whether that's a reflection of Bournemouth or a reflection of Southampton, but we know somebody who'll be able to tell us, and he's going to write a game report for us, isn't he? So we'll see how we get on, if Mike can tell us how that went, the Bournemouth and the Southampton game. So interesting, and we've got plenty more to come. Sterling up for the first time this weekend, and so on, which we'll go into in a little bit more detail in a while. But more to come from Tier 1 for sure. So then, if we have a little look forwards if we have a little look at Tier 2 as well, there was a few more sort of games not going on this week that we were expecting to happen at the first go, and our first game to be to fall foul. It was ARU, wasn't it, at Cambridge? They cited that it was referees that they couldn't get hold of for the game for whatever reason. But we still had some games across, and some of them fell in line with what you guys said in your preview to this week as well. So, Stuart, what did you see? Bearing in mind that there was a number that didn't play in the end, but what did you see across this tier?
Yeah, there was also the Kiel Staffs game that didn't go ahead. I don't think we got a reason, but that's been moved to November 10th, so not this weekend, next weekend. We've updated all of our database with all of that. But yeah, so we got chopped down to 5 fixtures in this weekend, and we saw a little bit of topsy-turviness. So the Southwest was 2 relatively close games. And, credit to the Worcester Royals. I didn't think that would be as close as it was. It'd be interesting to see, with it being my local team and my alma mater, to see how they progress throughout the season. They managed to put 3 points up on the board. Aberystwyth, have you learned to say it yet, Isaac? They put up 14.
This week.
They put up 14. So, that's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And then back at Hillside Gardens on the Sunday afternoon, the Bullets 2s also lost. I dread to think when the last time 2 UE teams lost on the same weekend, let alone just the ones. So, relatively close game, really competitive, and we'll come on to the fixtures that Blitz have later on. But really good result for the Blitz there to take that victory. My game of the week in this tier didn't go particularly well. I picked Solent Surrey, and that turned out to be a bit of a blowout in Surrey's favour. They came away with a 43-6 victory. And then in the southeast, 2 fairly decent games. I don't not professing to be an expert in southern football at all, but Kingston, who have been into the lofty heights of the Prem, will be looking to get back up into Tier 1. They took care of Greenwich 22-zip, and then Canterbury, with their newer links, showed signs of improvement over Queen Mary's. Sorry, probably shouldn't abbreviate them too quickly to Quimble. The Vipers managed to put up 16 points there.
Isaac, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's the Southwest that's looking the most competitive out of the Tier 2 South, since it's just South games this week. I was a bit shocked at the UE Bullets losing. I'm not too in touch with the South myself, but UE, the name alone, gives you a thing of, probably going to be a good team, good coaches. We got them only losing by 3 points, and then you got, I'm not saying it, a team from Wales that's hard to say. after last season, they were putting points and points and points on everybody. They only put 14 on to put on Worcester, which I also struggle with. It's quite a decent result, I think, for Worcester. So no, I think that Southwestern division is going to be a good one.
No, that's interesting, and that teases up nicely looking into the week ahead, doesn't it? Because we've got more. Is it more games this week? It feels like it, because there's certainly tons of games still coming in thick and fast this week. So as always, I ask the guys to come up with their games of the week, and easier said than done when you've got 20 odd to choose from, isn't it? But we'll give some honourable mentions along the way as well. But if we take a quick look at our Premier fixtures, dare I ask, guys, is there any that stand out to you in this tier, Isaac?
I mean, it's the obvious one, really. Durham playing host to Notts. This game last season in the playoffs, it was Durham win, sent to the national championship. You got Notts who were coming off that incredible victory against UWE, against Durham, who want to beat UWE. It's going to be a good game, I think. You have to see what kind of knocks that the knocks and injuries that Notts have picked up from last week. I can't remember them being like too many in the live stream, if I'm honest. So I doubt that they'll be struggling for numbers, especially with having the greens as well. They can always call upon. So no, I think that game's going to be a competitive one. Durham have recruited really well. If you look at the recruitment that they've done, so no, I think that is going to be a really good game to be watching if it were live streamed. But I don't think it is being. So no, I think that's going to be a great game.
And it feels like the other one in the National League there. Would you like to be Leeds Beckett in this situation where you've coming off a relatively bad result last week, and then you've got to face a wounded animal in the UE Bullets coming back this week? I wouldn't like to be in their shoes. Would you, Stu?
Not particularly, if I'm really honest. As a coach, I'd probably be looking all about me. I wouldn't worry too much about what UE did last week. It looks like I've got my own wounds to sort of lick and heal after last weekend's result. But again, they may come out and just say, "Look, I've got nothing to lose. Let's just throw caution to the wind and crack on with it." If I remember correctly, Beckett put on a hell of a performance against UE at their place last year, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the BUCS TV live streamed games from last year. We all know about the turnover that happened at Beckett over the summer and the politics behind that. Whether that's all been swept aside and they're just going again this year, sort of rebuilding, I don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I wouldn't like to be Leeds Beckett going into this weekend. What I had picked out of this weekend is probably the least glamorous tie. I will put a little asterisk next to a Prem South fixture in Cardiff. Yes, I'm not ignoring that fixture this weekend, but I'm assigned to it as an official, so I won't be making comments on it. I'll do that throughout the entire BUCS season.
Quickly move on.
I will remain perfectly impartial, but I will comment it after the fact. So unless it's controversial, then I probably won't.
Well, you'll have a front row seat to be able to comment on it as well, Stuart.
I will, yeah. My game of the week is the other one in that division is Portsmouth at Exeter. Not so long ago, this was a Tier 1 clash, and both teams have done really, really well to sort of improve and draw on local coaching staffs. They're now both in the Premiership South, and they'll both be looking to go even further, I'm sure. So for me, this is going to be another humdinger. You look down those 5 fixtures, and all 5 of them are going to be quality, in my opinion. Yes, I know that's why they're all in the Premiership, but they all have the opportunity to be really quality fixtures.
Yeah, and just a bit of a production note there. Cardiff isn't kicking off at midnight. We just don't have an official time yet, so we're just waiting on that to be confirmed, and then we'll update the graphics for sure. But hopefully you'll know where you need to be on time sooner rather than later, Stuart. Anyway, yeah. But no, some great games coming up there, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens. Do we have any live streams that we know of this week?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No.
Okay, that's fair. So let's move on from the Prem tier then and have a look at Tier 1, which is just as busy as it was last week. Plenty of games across both divisions. So Stuart, first dibs. What kind of sticks out to you then for Game of the Week within this tier?
What sticks out to me is that I've made an editorial issue, and the bottom game is exactly the same as the Northern 1A game. Good work, Stuart. That's what happens when you rush around to get these done. But I thought I'd put that in there before anybody comments on socials. So yeah, I make my own blooper reel here, don't I? My game of the week for this week is Hertfordshire versus Brighton. Brighton have been really performing over the last couple of years. They've stepped up into Tier 1. Hearts, again, another team that have sort of fallen a little bit from Premiership several years ago. I think this is going to be the sort of clash of this weekend. There are other really good ones. I'm sure Isaac will pick a slightly different one in this tier. But yeah, for me, oh yeah, there you go. Thank you. Single me out even more. It's great. Hold my hands up.
For those of you listening, I'm just saying sorry, Essex and UEA. But if you weren't watching, you wouldn't know any better.
No. I could have got away with it if I didn't mention it. But yeah, I will edit that out before the fixtures go up live on our socials.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's my pick. It's a tough place to go, is Hertfordshire. It's a 3G that's sort of well away from their changing block. So it's, again, like nice British football, it's open to the elements. It's very, very windy. There are actually cables that go across the pitch. If the ball hits, you stop the play immediately. So yeah, they certainly have home field advantage. Will they use it to their favour? Tune back in next week to find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Isaac, for yourself, because there's plenty going on around here. We've obviously got the curtain raiser for Sterling, haven't we? And we've got another of BUCS stalwarts coming in for their first game of the year this week, right?
Yeah, so I've actually changed my mind and chosen two games. So the first one is that Sterling Edinburgh game. Mm-hmm. Sterling, ex-national champion, going against Edinburgh, who last season represented Scotland in the playoffs. I believe losing to Warwick. I think I'm right. Edinburgh coming off that 12-0 win against Glasgow last week as well. So it's setting itself up to be a good game. And like Stuart said before, is it going to be the top three in Scotland and the bottom three? And I think this game is going to be one of the ones that decide if that top three order, if you know what I mean, because your top three, and that would be Glasgow, would be probably now Edinburgh, Glasgow, maybe Stirling / Edinburgh Napier. It's between them two. So, if Stirling could come out of the blocks and perform really well against a good Edinburgh team, it's only going to help them. And the second one is the Manchester Tyrants against Northumbria Mustangs. I had to coach against Northumbria last year and it was not fun. But we conceded some 70-odd points over 2 games against them. That Northumbria are a great programme. They've got a great QB. I can never pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try, but he's a great QB. And now his brother's now playing for him as well. Along the talent they've already got from the likes of, they've got a lot of Darlington and Steam players. A lot of Nottingham players have gone up there to go. Nottingham season players have up there as well against a Manchester team who will look to bounce back after their performance against UCLan. I think that game's going to be an interesting one as well.
And we've obviously got the Essex UEA game that we haven't put on there, but it's something that will be the bounce back game as well, because both teams lost last week, didn't they? And they'll be looking to change their fortunes and bring that forward. So an interesting one there, but plenty going on this week for us to try and digest over the weekend for sure. But last but no means least, let's have a little look at Tier 2, which we know is a lot busier this week, because we actually have some Northern games, don't we, this week, which we didn't last week. So Isaac, do you want to have first tips here when we're talking about games of the week down in Tier 2, because plenty going on, and we have got a midnight game again for Sunderland, but we've now learned that that's 1:30, isn't it? So take us through that.
I mean, that Sunderland game could finish at midnight, to be fair. So, I think the last game when I played them were 6 hours long. So, it could be. But that's the game I've chosen for my game of the week in Div 2. We've got Sunderland, who are coming off a winless season last year, against Sheffield, who are arguably favourites to win the Tier 2 North-Eastern division. So, no, I think Sheffield have a lot to follow up. They've got a lot of great players. They've got players from the Sheffield Giants. They've got a lot of coaches from the Sheffield Giants as well, who will know this level quite well because it's not too different from under-19s. So, no, I think that's going to be an interesting one. Sunderland will want to bounce back. They've got a young coaching staff as well, who are quite tough to play against. Then Druid Park on a cold, wet Sunday afternoon, never a fun place really to go. So no, but I'm just glad that we actually have some Northern games this week rather than just being all Southern. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And then Stuart, for yourself, because looking through that, we've got a Midlands teams that we didn't see last week, all 4 of them, and then we've got plenty of other people stepping up for the first time this week as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the Midlands. I looked at ARU versus Lincoln, and I thought that that could be an interesting game, but 2 fairly well matched teams from the best of my knowledge. That's a very early kickoff as well. A lot of the games double heading this year. I don't know whether that was more BUCS predicated or whether that was local teams coming together, just to make sure that sort of officials can make their way and cover 2 games, so that more games go covered with BAFRA officials. But my game actually comes from the south. My game is Bullets 2 Aberystwyth, again with how Aberystwyth performed against Worcester last week. Wow. Bullets 2's narrow loss last week as well. I think that one's going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to be another sort of 10, 13, 17 all game, or we could see high scoring affair. I've got, obviously, I know Sam, the new head coach at Bullets 2's, the sort of momentum that he's trying to build there, that he built at Sandwell. He's still doing all of his live streams, live videos and stuff, updates of how he coaches, what he does. So, we're almost getting an inside look into what they're doing at Bullets 2's there. And then we seem to have the abbreviated derby at the bottom with City St George, CSG Wolfpacks versus Canterbury Christchurch Chargers, the 4 C's there. So, yeah, we'll go with the abbreviation derby at the bottom.
Yeah. The anagram derby. No, totally. And it's a really good slate there, isn't it? And for me, it'd be interesting to obviously local to the northwest to see how Edge Hill get on. They've obviously been trying to build a program there. I know they've been able to recruit quite nicely some coaches within the Merseyside region as well as in Chester, and they've got strong ties there with Chester Romans as well, haven't they? And a number of others. So it'd be because weren't they the ones that, although the Northwest, they've been aligned with Team Midlands, haven't they? Weirdly, so I don't know if that's changed, but certainly they're somehow a team in Liverpool is aligned with Team Midlands, or at least it was at the beginning. So it'll be interesting to see how they go, because they've now got almost like a completely new division, haven't they? Because weren't they in with Jamie and Raptors at one point as well, and they'll obviously have to, maybe not last year, but a couple of years ago. So they're obviously having change divisions often, so I'll be looking towards see how Edge Hill get on, although they've got to travel to Staffs this week. But interesting that UE Bullets 2, that they'll want to get this because that'll be two home games done with, won't it, in quick succession there, and then they'll be travelling around the region at that point. So interesting week ahead. No, there'll be lots to look through, won't there, when it comes to Sunday night and Monday morning, trying to get an idea of what's going on. But we've also got some other games this week, haven't we? So we haven't just got BUCS. We've got the U19s Regional League. They're playing on Saturday, aren't they? Which is Team North versus Team Midlands, which is at the John Charles. Have I said that right, Stuart? John Charles Stadium in Leeds.
Yeah.
It's not just outside Leeds, isn't it? It's not quite Leeds. But no, they'll be playing there, and I went down to JMO to see the Team North camp, and unfortunately there was a clash with GB Flag, I think GB Flag and something else. can't remember what else, universities and stuff. So there was slightly lower numbers than expected, but I know they're looking forward to hosting that game in John Charles for sure. And you've got some insight there, Isaac, as well, because you've got some coaches there in Team North as well. And I know we know a lot of the Team Midlands quite closely, don't we, Stuart, with regards to Nottingham ties and GB ties and all that. So we're looking to see. Is that being streamed? I don't know if it is.
I haven't heard about it being streamed, no. But yeah, as you say, we've got a lot of people involved with it, including our own Aaron. He helps out with Team North, doesn't he? So yeah, we've got sort of a lot of friends of the show and friends of the company that sort of are going to be involved with this game. So no doubt that we can try and publish some sort of article about it sort of after the game next week. And then I know that we've got some information coming about Team South as well. We've had their guest writer again reach out to us with some stuff about their game that's coming up on the 9th as well.
Yeah, and that's in Nottingham, isn't it? For Team Midlands versus Team South, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. I know that's getting streamed on Caesars, but we'll talk about that next week when we get back together. But yeah, that's plenty to go through, isn't it? So BUCS week 2 over and done with, and straight on into BUCS week 3. And then we'll be back again for week 4. So it's all coming in really, really quick. But nonetheless, really good to catch up with you guys. Really good to kind of look through what's gone on and where we're going with BUCS. And we'll be able to bring you a bit more analysis as more data points come in and more results come in through the next few weeks. But thank you very much, Isaac. Thank you very much, Stuart, for joining us once again. And thanks to you listeners and viewers who have come along to share it with us. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you again next week to bring you week 3 and preview in week 4.